What's going on, family? This is Che Willis from Wealth is a Journey. I would like to welcome you and thank you for your purchase of Budget Like a Boss, the 7-step guide to mastering your money. Again, I would like to thank you because you are investing in yourself at this point. You recognize that there is a gap in your finances and you are taking action to correct those gaps. And I would like to say that this is going to be scary for a lot of people, but just stick with me and we are going to get you to where you need to be. In these 7 modules, excuse me, you are going to learn how to master your money. You're going to learn the different gaps, the different areas of opportunity that you had a lot of holes in your boat, and we're going to teach you how to plug those holes. So buckle up and get ready. I hope you have a pen. I hope you have a pad. I hope you are ready to learn because we're going to be throwing a lot of information at you. It will be scary. However, if you stick with me, you will be able to budget like a boss, tell your money where to go, and change generations that are coming behind you and change your own lives in the process. So let's go. Welcome to module number 1. Module number 1 is know your numbers. I know you want to get into making the money. I understand that, but slow down, slow down. We have to know our numbers first so we can know exactly where we are and where we need to go from here. So we need to track our numbers. And what I would like you to do is take 30 days to track your numbers because up until now, you may not even know what a budget is or how to set one up. But the first step of budgeting and balling out like a boss is you have to know your numbers. We have to. So that is tracking your gas expenditures for the month. That's tracking your mortgage and electric bill, student loans, different spending habits. If you take trips to the store, DoorDash, all those different things, we need to identify your spending patterns and habits so we can know how to plug the holes in your boat. The best and the fastest way to build wealth, and I know that's where you want to go, and we're going to get there, but the fastest way is to be able to invest money. But I always say on Wealth is a Journey podcast that you cannot invest money that you do not have. And the best way to know the money that you do have is to track your expenses. So, module number 1 is to take the time to track your expenses. Now, everybody doesn't need 30 days. I get that too. But what I would tell you is before you move to module number 2, we need to start here. We need to track all of our expenses. The way my wife and I were able to get out of debt, completely debt free, house and everything, is we had to put in our budget, enlist in our budget, all of our income and then all of our expenses. What we had left over, then we can dump on debt. Also built into our emergency fund, things of that nature. Now we're going to get into that as well. But I want to let you know, first things first is we need to track all of our expenses, all of our expenses. That's going out on dates with your spouse or your significant other. That's buying clothes for your children. That is, again, student loans, credit card expenses, different things of that nature that you guys are paying on a monthly basis. Those need to be tracked. Now, again, if you do not need 30 days to track all of these things, if you can go back through your expenses, another hack is you can go back through your credit card statement and or your debit card statement and then find little patterns that you've been doing on a 30-day period. Then you can do that as well, right? So we need to track all our expenses. So do not move to module number 2 until you have a list of all of your expenses, because we're going to need to put that into our budget, which you're going to learn a few modules from now. So track your expenses. Do not move to module number 2 before you track all of your expenses, because we need that to move on to the next thing. If you need a tracker, we have that for you as well for free on my website, wealthisajourney.com. So we have a budget tracker, we have a PDF version, and we have the budget worksheet, which is an Excel version as well. So you can track all of your expenses. So that'll give you an idea of things that maybe you forgot that you spend money on. It's all listed out, all there. So if you can fill in those things based on what you spend on a monthly basis, that's going to help you out tremendously. Again, take your time. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. This is going to take you some time. You have to crawl before you walk, and get walking first, and then you'll be able to start running. Thank you. Welcome to module number 2. Module number 2 is budget without boredom. So first, I don't want to assume that people know what a budget is. A budget is basically telling your money where to go, right? So we have our income first listed, then we have all of our expenses. Now, what most people do when they budget is they have their income, they have their expenses, and then whatever money's left over after they pay their bills, they blow it. So that money gets blown on food, it gets blown on clothes and trips and different things of that nature. Now, budgeting without boredom is something that's going to be specific to your lifestyle. My budget is going to be different than your budget based on where I want to go in life. Now, what I will also tell you is that a lot of people feel like when they budget, it's restrictive. They can't do different things. Now, that is true to an extent. But what I will tell you is that as my wife and I were on our journey to get out of debt, we did go on trips. We did buy nice things. We bought cars. We bought properties and different things of that nature to help us to feel accomplished, to give us mile markers and say, hey, yes, we can spend money. A budget is going to give you permission to spend money. So I want to make sure that you understand that budgeting is not something that, oh, I can't spend money. Yeah, you can, but it's based on where you want to go in life. So, what we also need to do is identify our why. Why are we doing what we're doing when you're setting up your budget? Because this process, this journey is going to be long for some. This is something that's not going to be, maybe 6 months, a year. This is going to take you quite some time to pay off our house. My wife and I took us 7.5 years. It was a long journey. We're still on a journey as well after we paid off our house, but I'm just giving you an idea of how long it took us to pay our house off. So we have to identify our why. My why was I grew up not having abundance when I was growing up. And I've always remembered that in my head. So what that meant for me is my why was I never want my son to grow up the way I did. I want to be able to provide him with different things. And my parents did the best they could with what they had. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that we didn't have a lot of restrictions. So what that meant for me is I needed to reduce my expenses so then I had more money to do the things that I wanted to do. And hopefully when you're setting up your budget, you want to do the same thing, because the less overhead you have, which are your expenses, the more money you're going to have to do the things that you want to do. So when you are setting up your budget, you have to realize, why am I doing this? So when you have your pen and your pad and you're writing down different notes, You need to identify and write down, why am I doing this? And you need to keep that in front of you, because this is going to be a long road to get out of your situation, right? So understand what a budget is and what a budget is not. A budget is not having your expenses, having your income, and then blowing the rest of the money. That's not a budget. A budget is actually telling your money where to go. So you have to set a goal, or maybe little goals. A big goal, which was ours, was paying off our house, and then we had little goals. Going on a trip, paying for something small, maybe under $1,000 or maybe under $5,000 with cash. Those were small goals, and then once we achieved those goals, we celebrated. So what a budget is being able to tell your money where to go. There are many different ways to budget your money. Ours, the way we did it, we set up a zero-based budget, meaning that before the month started, so let's just say it's at the end of June and we're going into July. Before July started, we had our budget set. So everything at the end of July, we would have zero money left over. So every dollar was accounted for. Every dollar, down to the penny, was accounted for. So when you have your income, you have all of your expenses, you have your debts, which then rolls into the snowball method, which that's what we use. Which the snowball method is you pay all of your minimum payments, smallest to largest, and then whatever money's left over from that, you dump money on top of the smallest expense. The reason we're doing that is because we want to feel a sense of accomplishment. I understand there's the avalanche method, but the snowball method worked well for us because we wanted to feel accomplished. Once you pay off that small credit card, great. That's, we celebrate. Then we dump the money that we were using for the smaller credit card on the next credit card. And then that's paid off. And then we use the money from the two credit cards we just paid off, and then we dump it on the next thing. And then the next thing. And then we're just creating a snowball. And then we're feeling so confident that we paid off the 2 and 3 credit cards that now we feel accomplished enough and confident enough to now pay off our car. And think about once you pay off that 1, the 2, the 3, the 4 credit cards that you have, and now you're ready to attack the car. And then once the car is paid off, how much more money you're going to have to do the things that you want to do. Invest, go on this nice luxurious vacation, send your kid to college for free. Like, these are the things that you can do once you set your mind to knocking down the small things. So module number 2, we're talking about budget without boredom. And do not move to number 3 until you understand what a budget is and what a budget is not. And if you are doing the income expenses, then blowing the rest, slow down and understand what your why is, and then make sure that your actual budget aligns with your why. If you don't want to be financially challenged anymore, if you want to go on the nice vacations, if you want to do the nice things, let's lower our expenses first. And then once we do that, then we can ball out. So do not move to module number 3 until you understand module number 2. All right, let's go. All right, guys, this is module number 3. Module number 3 is killing the spending leaks. Now, guys, I need you guys to stick with me here. And first of all, let me commend you for making it this far. If you made it this far, that means that you are really serious about your financial journey and how to get on the right side of spending habits, budgeting, and getting to being able to invest at a rapid pace. But we have to take a couple steps first before we get to the nice shiny things that we want to do. So we have to identify the spending leaks. And what I mean by that is, what type of spender are you? Are you an impulse buyer? Are you a shopper for convenience? What is a need versus a want? And in order for you to get to the other side of your financial um, challenges, I'll say, is we need to identify what type of person we are. Are you an emotional spender? So when you normally go off the deep end or you normally overspend, when does that normally happen? Does that normally happen when you get into an argument with your spouse? Does that normally happen when a family member or friend passes away? When does that normally happen for you? And we have to identify what those triggers are to get us to the other side. So what we need to do is first identify what is a need and what is a want, right? Because those are budget killers, and those are leaks or holes in our boat that can potentially drown us. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify those things. So once we know what those enemies are, then we can attack them head on. So when we're building our budget, when we're setting our budget up, we need to know what is a need versus a want. And when I'm doing my needs versus wants, it's what is taking care of my four walls, right? My four walls, my home, what's taking care of me being able to eat, me having the ability to make money, and me being able to provide for my family. Like not the nice to haves, but bare necessities, right? And so once we identify those things, then that's when we can know what a want is. So a want may be going to the mall. A want may be going out to dinner or going out to a restaurant when you know you can't necessarily afford it. A nice thing to have or a want may be a vacation. So again, we have to identify what those things are in our lives. So therefore, we know exactly how to attack them. And moving on to you being an impulse buyer, what I would do is institute a no spending for 24 hours once that feeling comes. So once I had the feeling of, oh, I need to buy that thing, we need to sit and think, do I really need this thing? Sit on it for 24 hours. And after the 24 hours is over, then we say to ourselves, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't need that thing. Or hey, maybe that thing wasn't a necessity. So when we're talking about needs versus wants, we need to identify again, if is it taking care of my four walls, is it taking care of my family, is it taking care of my ability to eat or to make money. And if it does not identify with that, then first of all, we need to write those things down. Put them somewhere where you can see it, because we need those constant reminders of, if this thing that I want or feel like is a need does not identify with what I had already wrote down, then I do not need this thing, because these are the holes in your boat that will sink you. And before we can build wealth, before we can start investing at a rapid pace in our businesses or stock market or real estate or whatever vehicle that we're going to use, we need to know what those things are, so then we can cut down on them, so we can dump them on um, our debts. So therefore, we're going to have more money to make that money make you more money. And that's exactly why we are building this budget. So when we're building our budget, so all of these modules that you're going through all lead to you building your budget and building your best life. And what I want to remind you is when you're setting up your budget, it does not mean that you cannot spend money. It doesn't mean that. You are giving yourself permission to spend money. And once the budget is locked in for the month, then the hope is that we do not change things. And if we do need to change things, then we need to take from one category, one line item, and then take it from one line item to then put it back into another where we need the money. And in a few modules from now, we're actually going to build a budget so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But first, before we actually build the budget, we need to know and we need to identify where the leaks are. What's a necessity? What's a need versus a want? And what type of shopper, or do you have a lot of impulses when you buy? And we're going to build it in our budget for those impulses. I promise you, this is going to be as painless as possible, but we are going to get you to the other side. I just need you to walk with me. But do not move to module number 4 until you identify those few things. What type of shopper are you, and what is a need in your life versus a want in your life? And what are the triggers that had you go off on the deep end to kill your account or kill your budget? So don't move on to module number 4 until you identify those things and you write them down. It is vitally important that you do this before you move on. Let's go. All right, guys, this is module number 4. We are now identifying our bills, our debts, and our plan of attack. When I say bills, I'm talking about what our fixed costs are and what are our variable costs. So a fixed cost would be, if you don't know, is your rent, your mortgage, your car note, different things that in your budget that are not going to change. It Whether it's January or it's December, it does not matter. That bill will not change, right? So we need to identify those things. We need to write them down because, again, what we're doing here for all of these modules is we're building our budget. And all these steps are just easy little things that you can do one by one to then build your budget. And then we are going to attack this thing with a vengeance. So, what we need to do is identify what our fixed costs are, and then we also need to identify what our variable costs are. So the variable costs are different than the fixed costs. Those are the ones that go up and down, like your electric bill, right? So like your electric bill is going to be different. Your groceries, what you pay for groceries may be different. Dining out, that may be different as well. So what we need to do is we need to go back maybe the month before or 2 months before, and then get an average cost of what those variable costs may be. Because normally for me in my house, our electric bill is a lot higher in the summertime because we have a lot of things running. We have equipment running, we have the air conditioner running, things of that nature. So our bill is going to be a lot higher. So what we do is we go back when we're building our budget. So let's just say for July or August, because those are the hottest months. What we'll do is we'll go back the month prior, or we'll look back in our budget spreadsheets. We'll go back to what it was the year before, and then we'll do maybe a few dollars higher. So let's just say our electric bill in July last year was $350. What we'll do is we will build it in our budget that maybe it'll go up to 425 because things go up, things that nature. So what we want to do is we want to build enough money into those things so if it comes in a little higher, we're still going to be under budget. And when we put the budget together, everything that I'm saying right now is going to make total sense if what I'm saying right now does not make sense to you. So what we want to do right now is we want to identify what our fixed costs are. So I want you to write that down. If you have not downloaded the free budget spreadsheet, which is either a PDF form on my website or the Excel version, everything is already spelled out for you. For the majority of households, it's all spelled out. So the only thing you need to do is identify what those costs are and just plug the numbers into your projected income. I'm sorry, your projected um, expenses. Excuse me. So once we identify those things, then we have a plan of attack of how we're going to do it. Now, what the plan of attack looks like is, remember I talked about in a few modules ago, we have the debt snowball and we have the avalanche method. Now, the avalanche method is something that I don't necessarily use because I don't like to pay the high interest credit cards and things like that off first. I like to pay the smallest to largest off because once you pay the smallest off, then you can roll that payment into the next thing and then into the next thing. And what that does is it gives you the hope and belief that, hey, this is giving me encouragement because I know that I can do this. Now, if you're trying to pay off the high interest credit card, like the avalanche method that I just talked about, it may take a really, really long time to knock that bill off. And the longer it takes, the more your faith and your hope and your belief may wane. And we do not want that. We want quick wins. So if you have a credit card that has $100 balance on there, then what we're going to do is we're going to build that into your budget and hopefully knock that credit card off within a month, two max. And then we're going to roll that payment into the next thing, and then we're going to just build this snowball, and the snowball is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to be knocking bills down. So again, you have more money to make that money make you more money after the debts are taken care of. But first things first, we have to identify the fixed cost. All right, we have to identify the variable cost, and then we also have to identify what method we're going to use. Again, the snowball method to me is the best way because, again, we want to get quick wins, right? And as we're identifying what our debts are, so we can then create the snowball, we also need to know what our total balance is. Because once we identify the total balance, then that's when we'll know how to list the debts from smallest to largest. So that's why it's going to be super important for you to know your numbers and identify what your debts are, um, what the minimum payment is, and then what the total balance is. The total balance is where we're going to focus a lot of our attention at because that's how we're going to get the snowball rolling. So this module, please make sure before you move on to the next module, you identify what your fixed costs are, you identify what your variable costs are, you identify what method you're going to use. Again, hopefully it's the snowball method because that is going to get you quick wins. And then we also need to identify what our debts are. The debts are credit cards, student loans. If you have a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, that is considered a debt. Your mortgage, that's included as well. If you have a car payment, that's included as well. So anything that is a debt, something that you owe money to somebody else for until you pay the thing off, that is considered a debt. So we need to identify all of them. And when I say all, I mean all. If you need to check your credit report to see what's outstanding, say you might have forgot some things that may be on there that because you stopped paying them, everything needs to be identified so you can be a good steward over your finances and pay the people back that you owe. I know if they're not after you anymore, I understand, hey, well, if they're not calling me anymore for this debt, then maybe I don't need to pay it anymore. But what I will tell you is that it's best to pay the people back that you owe money to. Think about if you lent money to somebody and because you stop calling them, then they're like, okay, well, I don't owe them money anymore because they stopped calling me. You would like your money back. So pay the people that you owe money back to, and I believe you will be blessed as a result of your good stewardship. So again, do not move to the next module until you've identified all of the things that I listed a minute or so ago. All right, let's go, man. We're on our way. We're on our way. Do not stop now. You are closer than you think. Let's go. All right, y'all. We're on module number 5. We are moving along. We are moving. We are moving. Let's go. So, guys, I am super excited that you've made it this far. I feel like a lot of people would have fell off by now. But if you made it to module number 5, that means you are serious about your financial journey and the fact that you know that you have somewhere to go and you know that it's not going to be just given to you. We put ourselves in a hole and we just have to climb our way out of this hole. And this is exactly what we're doing. So I just wanted to make sure I encourage you guys to keep going. Right. So what we're doing in module number 5 is we are building our So what we're doing in module number 5 is we are building our buffer and we're learning how to ball out. All right. So what we're doing here is when I talk about building a buffer, that means that there's something called an emergency fund. So the buffer is building the emergency fund, meaning that if we have an emergency, a lot of times what we have the tendency to do is we have the tendency to swipe a credit card because we don't have money saved for emergencies. If you have lived any length of time, you understand that life happens. Things come up, they're unexpected. Things in your house break. Accidents happen. Your deductible is $500 for your car, or you have to put in a claim for your house and it's $1,000. So we need to build a buffer for those things that happen, that come up, that are truly emergencies. Here's just a few things that an emergency is not. An emergency is not going to go hang out with your girls, going out to dinner and buying drinks and food and all that stuff. If you cannot afford it, that is not an emergency. An emergency is not a vacation that you cannot afford currently. Okay, so just understand what an emergency is and what emergency is not. An emergency is if your hot water goes out, hot water heater goes out, and you need to get it repaired. If you get in an accident and you got to put your car into the shop, if your tires blow or something of that nature, that isn't a truly an emergency. That's what the emergency fund is for. Rule of thumb to me is $1,500. If you can only save $1,000 at the time, I'm fine with that as well. So anywhere, let's just say $1,000 to $1,500. So if we can save that when we're doing our budget, and again, a module or two from now, we're going to get to the budget. We're going to put everything together. So everything that we're learning up to this point, we're going to then build our budget, and we're going to show you exactly how to ball out. So we need to build it in our budget where we're saving away for an emergency fund. Now, the emergency fund, if you have a bank account, checking account, then you can most likely go to your bank, say, hey, I want to open up a savings account. You call it whatever you want. Emergency savings, you call a savings account. But as long as you know that you can get to that money and have it transferred into your account just in case you need it within a day or two, that's fine. My wife and I, we have our emergency savings in a totally separate bank that we have to transfer the money to, and it's going to take a day or two for us to actually get the money. So you can do that, or if you want to do it for your primary checking account, your primary bank, and then add a savings component to that. So if you have an emergency and you need to use the emergency fund, you have the money sitting there and it's accessible. So we need to build that in our into our budget. And what's going to happen is that it's going to make you sleep easier at night because most times people use their credit card as an emergency fund. So God forbid they something happens, comes up, okay, well, hey, I got 5 grand on this credit card. I'm going to go ahead and swipe it now. What happens is we have all the intentions in the world of paying the credit card back before the interest payments hit. But what happens is life happens again, and then something else comes up, and then we end up not paying the emergency credit card back, and then we're ended up paying 28%, 15%, 18%, whatever your interest rate is for that credit card. And now you're paying 18% more, 20% more, 25 to 28% more of the thing that you had paid for in the very beginning. And that is a wealth killer. So we want to take our reliance off of credit cards and we want to put the reliance back on ourselves. But we have to set it up that way. So if you do not have an emergency fund currently, this is exactly what we need to do, and we're going to build it in your budget. Just bear with me. We're going to put everything together, okay? Also, if you are at the point where you do have an emergency fund, beautiful. Because ultimately, what we want to do is we want to have our emergency fund, a little baby starter emergency fund of 1,500 bucks, 1,000 to 1,500 bucks, and then we want to reduce our expenses down, like pay off our debts. And then once we pay them off, then we want to set up a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So again, what we're doing is we're building something here, right? So once we have our 3 to 6 months of emergency, that's when life really gets good. But we have to get there first. But what I was going to say before I went off on a tangent, excuse me, is that uh, you can build, and when I was talking about ball out earlier, is we can ball out by going on vacations, going to nice dinners, uh, things like that. And the way we do that is we build it in our budget. So my wife and I, we have a vacation fund, right? We also have a Christmas fund. So what that is when we're doing our budget on a monthly basis, we build which is a fixed cost, right? We build a certain amount for Christmas. We build a certain amount for vacations. We build a certain amount for dinners and date nights and things like that that we want to go on. And based on what we have going on to take care of our four walls first, then whatever monies we have left over that are not going towards debts and things of that nature, then that goes into those categories. So then when we go to the vacation or we go on a date or we spend money for Christmas, we're not killing ourselves again using credit cards, burying ourselves deeper and deeper in the hole. That's what we're trying to get away from. So we're trying to take the reliance off of the credit cards and we're building something to put the reliance on ourselves. And I'm telling you, if you do this, if you do the things that we're talking about, you're going to sleep better at night. If you are married, you and your spouse are going to have a more blissful marriage because one of the number one reasons for divorce is money. So if you're building something financially that's going to take care of your future and take care of the leaks in your boat, and also you're going to be able to go on nice vacations because you planned it that way and you built it that way. I'm telling you, man, life is a lot sweeter. Life gets a lot sweeter, and it just gives you something, one less thing to have to worry about or argue about with your spouse. So in this module, we are going to so in this module, we're going to build the buffer and we're going to show you how to ball out. So that's what we're doing. So do not move to the next module until you've identified if you have an emergency fund, if you have an emergency savings, And if you do, how much is in that actual savings? If you have 1,000, if you have 1,500, beautiful. If you have more than that, even better. So the next module we're going to talk about is how to put everything together. We're going to put everything together. So the next module that we go through, which is module number 6, or that's probably going to be the longest module because we're actually going to put the budget together line by line by line, and we're going to go through a few different scenarios that's going to give you an idea of what you should be doing if you have this taken care of, or if you don't have this taken care of, what you need to be doing in some different scenarios. So bear with me, stick with me. I'm telling you, we're going places, man. This information that I'm giving you guys um, has been life changing for my wife and I. I'm telling you. So please, please stick with me, but do not move forward until you've identified where you are. Do you have an emergency fund? And what that emergency fund entails? How much is it? How easy can you get to it? All right, let's get it, y'all. We almost home. We almost home. All right, family, we're here. Module number 6, budget like a boss. Boss. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about budgeting, and we're going to put everything together that we've talked through module number 1 all the way to now module number 6. And budgeting is very scary for a lot of people, right? And because they feel like they're restricted, they can't do a lot of the things that they want to do, which could be true. However, what I will tell you is that all you're doing when you're budgeting is you're just telling your money where to go. That's it, which gives you the freedom to have control over your money. So, building a budget, you need a few things. These are very, very important things. So, do not move forward before you do these things. You have to have all of your numbers. You have to. You have to have your income and you have to have all of your expenses. If you do not have these things, this will not work. I will repeat it. It will not work. So you have to have all of your income, all of your expenses. Now, what I will tell you also is budgeting is a lifestyle too. It's a habit. Now, it may be uncomfortable for you and or your spouse, if you're married, to do this because you've never done it before. But what I will tell you is if you do this and you stick with it, you will have financial success. You can't invest money that you don't have. So if your idea is to, hey, well, I'm going to grow my money, I'm going to do all these nice things with my money, you can't do that if your money is all over the place. So what we're doing now is we're reining the money in and then we're telling it where to go. But before we get started with the different scenarios that I've um, taken care of for you, is that this needs to be done again every month without fail. You need to do either a daily or weekly check-in with where you're spending money is going, right? And then also you need to make sure that it becomes a habit, it's a lifestyle that you're creating because this will be difficult, it will be challenging. My wife and I, for the first 3 years, I'll say, it was not easy for us. It was difficult because we were headed in the same direction, but it's like we both wanted our way, and one of us had to give up control to the other month by month by month. So it's a constant give and take if you're doing this with a spouse, and you have to recognize, you have to understand that. And if I had understood that from the beginning, then I believe that we would have had a lot more smoother sailing in the beginning. Okay. So I want to give you a warning that if you're married and you're just getting into this, please stick to it. Please, because it will be difficult, it will be challenging, especially if it's your first time or it's your first time doing this with a spouse. Also, once you get good with this, it is your obligation to tell somebody else how you did what you did as far as getting out of debt, as far as building up your financial empire, right? We're not gatekeepers here. We're not doing that. We're passing down information to the next generation because we know how it feels not to know how to do this thing. So once we get good at it, it is our obligation to tell somebody else about it so they don't stumble and fall like we may have up until now. Okay? So this is a lifestyle. This needs to be done every month before the month starts, right? And we need to pass this information down to our kids. And I'm going to go back to before the month starts. The reason that we do this before the month starts, it again, we're trying to control our money. So what we're doing is, say it's July and we're going into August. Your August budget should be set up before August starts. So all we're doing is we're listing our income, our projected income, and then we're listing our projected expenses based on previous months. So that's why it's important to know your numbers. So then you can write down and plug in using my budget, my free budget worksheet on my website. Plug in those numbers line by line by line, and we'll go through the scenarios. And that has to be done because when the month starts and we start getting money in for the month, then that's when we can start dishing out the money where it needs to go. If it needs to go on a credit card, if it needs to go to your mortgage, if it needs to go to your insurance company, if you're building up your emergency fund, like you have all of that all spelled out already. So when the money starts coming in, it gives you the control to start throwing the money out to where it needs to go. So without further ado, we are going to get into a few scenarios to set you up for financial success. Now, these different scenarios, please take your time with these because, again, if this is new to you, it may seem foreign, but the good news is you have these modules so you can watch them over and over and over again until it makes sense, until you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? So let's get into it. Let's go. All right, family, here we go. Buckle up. Here we go. We are now putting everything that we've learned together. We're putting everything together now. This is our budget tracker that we have on my website. It does not cost you anything. This is completely free. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a budget together, and I'm going to show you exactly how my wife and I got out of consumer debt and we were able to pay our house off. Cars, credit cards, everything. Everything's paid off. Now, what that means to you is if you can do this, then you will have a lot more money to do the things that you want to do. Vacations, um, uh, taking your kids to, different places, having them go to college at no expense to them, which then gives them a greater chance out here in this world. And you can be an example to those people who are coming behind you. So we are going to go ahead and get started. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you guys have all of your income, all of your expenses. This goes back to module number one about knowing your numbers and writing them down. This budget worksheet is the most detailed worksheet that I've ever seen. And that's why I created it to make sure that there was no um, guessing about what we were spending money on. This will spell everything out for you. But before we get started with doing the budget worksheet, if you look here, we need to put all of our projected monthly income. So if you are a 9-to-5 employee This is income one and income two. So if you guys are married, you have income one, income two. So you and your spouse, hopefully your finances are combined, and then you can start putting your income in here. And then if you have any side hustles, things of that nature, you can actually put this in extra income. If you're a single parent and you have uh if you're a single parent, excuse me, and you have alimony or child support, you can put that in here because it does count as income. Every dollar that you have coming in matters. Okay, so we have to recognize that. Then after that, we have all of our expenses. So rent and mortgage, if you have a second mortgage on your house, gas, water, sewer, cable, waste removal, everything, right? And let's go back here. So once we put in our projected monthly income, this should be done before the month starts. So if we are in the month of July and we're doing our August budget should be set before the month starts. Why? Because once we get the money in, once we start receiving income in, then we already have our plan set of how our money is going to get spent, if that makes sense. So there's going to be no confusion once August starts where your money is going to go because you've already gave your money an assignment, if that makes sense. So that's why it's going to be important for you, A, to do this before the month starts, have a plan, and then once the money starts coming in, then you can start sending the money where it needs to go. So these are all categorized by transportation, insurance, food, children, costs for your children, savings and investments, gifts and donations. So if you go to church, you give tithes and offerings, or if you believe in a charity and you do that on a monthly basis, you can put those in these categories here. If you have any pets, that's a thing as well. Here's an area of opportunity that a lot of people do not do. A lot of times people will uh, pay all of their bills, and then once their bills are paid, then they spend all the rest of the money. And that's where a lot of us get in trouble. So we need to categorize spending money for ourselves, for you and your spouse or your significant other. Another one that we don't do uh, is another hole in our boat. If you have any vices, um, marijuana, if you buy alcohol, things of that nature, you can put this in medical as well. Or if you're going to the doctors, things of that nature, you could put that in here also. So we need to list everything that we're spending money on. Okay, please make sure that we do this before we move forward with setting our budget up. We have to write down and go back to module number one and go over that so we're not missing anything. Okay, because we need all of our numbers true before we can move forward with actually setting our budget up. Okay, so taxes. If you have any taxes that you owe, you can put that in projected expenses as well. Then once you pay the bills in whatever category it is, then you put it in actual expenses. Okay. Entertainment, streaming apps, online games, movies, concerts, things of that nature. If you're going to a concert or anything like that, or you're going to the movies on a date or anything, you can actually put this in these categories. Okay. So again, it's very detailed. And here is debts. If you have any debts, we need to put these in here. So we got Capital One. If you have multiple Capital One cards or you have a Discover card, if you have a vehicle payment, you could put all of that in here. And then you see that there's an area over here that basically says remaining balances. We need to know what our remaining balance is. Why? Because that's how we're going to attack our debts, smallest to largest. Again, back a few modules ago, we talked about the debt snowball. That is the way that my wife and I were able to get out of debt. We used the debt snowball to attack our debts, smallest to largest. Why are we doing this again, Che? We're doing this because we are trying to create wins for ourselves. And if we attack the smallest debt first, then it'll give us that hope and belief that we can continue on knocking down debt and enrolling each payment into the next payment, into the next payment. And I'm going to get into that in our next scenario. Now, what we want to make sure is when we're putting um, our projected monthly income in, we put these numbers in here. And then once we start putting our projected expenses in, then it's going to come in over here. And this number here, and you'll see it in what I'm talking about in a little bit, just needs to make sure that it does not exceed this number here. Okay? So please make sure that we do that. So now we are going to go into a few scenarios of how we're going to build our financial freedom. We're going to build this thing out. All right? So let's move on. All right, here we go. Here we go. So remember, I said projected monthly income. We have to put all of our income sources in. So we have maybe the husband or the wife's income, income number one. Then we have income number two. And then if they have a side hustle, this is the extra income. Or if you have, say, child support or anything like that, this goes into extra income. These cells are editable, so you can actually put whatever you want in here. Okay. So again, remember our monthly income, our projected monthly income, and then all of our expenses need to match, or your expenses cannot exceed your income because then you'll be in the negative. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. This is a one scenario that we have. So we're going to get into it. So this in this scenario, this couple has an $1,800 mortgage, okay, or rent. Phone bill is $130. The electric bill, because it's the summertime, is $350. Gas, water, cable, waste removal. Now, I understand that your waste removal may not come every month. However, if you know that it may be $75 every 3 months, then you can budget $25 a month. So when it's time to pay the $75, you have the money sitting there, if that makes sense. Okay. And the same thing goes for your water or your sewer bill. Okay. And in this scenario, this couple does not have any maintenance or repairs that need to be done to the house. They don't need any supplies and they don't have anything else going on. So their total house expenses are $2,455. Transportation, they have $180 in there for their insurance. They have $200, so I'm sorry, $250 for fuel each month, or for this month specifically. So we have life insurance, $38. Food. This is a big one here because a lot of people spend a lot of money on food. So we have $1,300 for groceries, which I believe is pretty average. Now, if yours is lower, perfect. Okay. So in this scenario, theirs is $1,300. They dine out. They do Uber Eats, DoorDash. They go to a restaurant for a family outing or a date night, and it comes up to be $500. Now, what they're saying in this scenario is that we are not going to exceed $500 in our dining out budget. Okay. So the way that you make sure that you do that is that anytime you spend money, again, this is actual expenses, right? So we're projecting that we're going to spend $500. Now, if you go to a nice dinner and you end up spending, let's just say $300, You put the 300 in there, and now you know the difference is $200. So you cannot, let's just say it's the beginning of the month and you spend the $300. For the remaining portion of the month, you only have $200 left to spend in this category. Okay? So I just want to make sure that that's clear. And this is how we're going to win with our money. Okay? So it's the summertime again, so there's no children's costs for school or anything like that. But if you guys have any medical bills or anything like that that you need to be paying for your children, all the categories are here: lunch money, childcare, anything of that nature. But in this scenario, there is nothing going on for their children. Now, in this scenario, they don't have a retirement account at this time other than their 401k. They are not putting any away. They're not putting any money away towards college. But this here in the scenario is an emergency fund. Okay. They do not have an emergency fund. And remember, we talked about in a few modules ago that we want to have anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 for our starter emergency fund. The reason that we have an emergency fund, again, is that we are trying to take our reliance off of credit cards. A lot of people have credit cards as their emergency fund. They have all the intentions in the world of paying the credit card off before the statement comes in or before the finance charges hit. And then unfortunately something else happens and then they have to use a credit card again. And now they're paying 28% for this credit card or whatever the emergency was. They're paying 28% on top of what they spent. So what we're doing is, again, we're trying to take our reliance off the credit card. So we're building our starter emergency fund of $1,000. So for this example, based on whatever monies were left over after we are done paying our bills and things of that nature, we only had $769 to put on our emergency fund. Okay, so keep that in mind. Charities is $410. This is what they're doing. All right. They don't have any pets, so we're keeping that blank there. Spending money for themselves. Now, uh, my wife and I, we have spending money for ourselves. My wife's needs are greater than mine as far as spending money for ourselves. So, in your scenario, you may get less than your spouse, or you may get more than your spouse, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's whatever you guys agree to. So if you have the same amount of spending money, that's okay. If one has more or less, that's okay as well. As long as you guys agree, that's all that matters. Everything is going to be household specific, but in this scenario, one spouse gets $50 more than the other. Okay. We break everything out also again. So hair and nails is broken out. But if your budget is tight, then you can use your hair and nail money in your spending money, if that makes sense. So, but ours, the way we do it is we have our own spending money and we break out the hair and the nails into separate categories. Okay. But if your budget does not allow that, that's okay. It's not forever, it's temporary. So just to let you know, um, that is there for you. Okay. So gym memberships, $10, say Planet Fitness. And now we're going to move on to taxes. Everybody does not owe taxes, okay? But this is a category for you. If you have federal, state, or local taxes that you owe money on, you can put that in as a projected expense. But in this scenario, we do not have that, okay? So we're going to move on. Streaming apps, Netflix, um, Hulu, Tidal, Apple Music, Amazon Music. If you have multiple streaming apps such as Amazon Music, Apple Music, Tidal, they all play the same music. Okay. So if your budget is tight and you don't have a lot of money, please check your streaming apps and make sure that you are not paying for multiple streaming apps that do the same thing. So if you need to get rid of Apple Music and Tidal and keep Amazon Music, then do that. Every little bit helps if you have a tight budget and you are trying to go somewhere financially. If you don't have an emergency fund, if you don't have, or you're trying to save for something significant, or you're trying to pay down debt, then unfortunately you don't necessarily have the luxury of having extra things currently. Only if you're trying to go somewhere financially, which you bought this course. So that tells me that you're trying to do something financially for yourself. So if you have multiple streaming apps, again, get rid of some of them that do not make sense. Okay. Now we're at the debt portion of the scenario. In this scenario, there is a Chase credit card. Okay. And remember, I said if what we're doing is we're doing a debt snowball. So we are paying off the smallest to the largest. In this scenario, the Capital One credit card is the smallest. Okay, $1,209. The second one is the Navy Federal Credit Union credit card. The third one is American Express. And then the fourth one is Chase. So in this scenario, these are the minimum payments. So the projected debt, here's your minimum payment, 200 bucks, 150, 123. Now, with this scenario, since there was extra money, this Capital One credit card was about $150 was the minimum payment. But because this is our smallest credit card, now we're dumping extra money on this Capital One credit card to then pay it off. So hopefully that makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up top here. And remember I said earlier that this number, your expenses, cannot exceed your projected monthly income. If it does, then that means that some of your expenses need to come down. So in this scenario, what I would do if that was the case, which is not, but if it was, maybe your dining out needs to be lowered down, or your groceries need to be lowered down a little bit, or your spending money may need to be lowered a little bit, or maybe you do your own hair, maybe you do your own nails. Just giving you guys recommendations on how you can get rid of some of your expenses if your expenses are exceeding your income. Okay. So in the notes section here, there's no emergency fund, right? The plan is to have a starter emergency fund by the end of July. If we're in June now, we're trying to have our fully funded $1,000 by the end of July. So we're going to put this in our notes section here. And this notes section also will serve as mile markers for you when you look back over the months to see how far you've come from. Okay. As you're going through it, it may not feel the greatest. But as you start making strides in your financial future, and then you start looking back from where you came from, then you'll start to feel better like, oh my gosh, okay, back in June, I didn't have an emergency fund, and now it's October and I have an emergency fund and I was able to pay off a bunch of debt. Okay. So this is scenario number one. Okay. So this is our debt. We're trying to pay this off, smallest to largest again. So let's move on to our next scenario. So this is scenario number two. All right. Everything is pretty much the same. This is the following month, right? Everything is going to be pretty much the same. Let's just say that in this scenario, this couple is making the same amount of money, or their projected income is the same, right? Now we're going to go through and look at what may have changed from last month to this month. Everything in the housing is the same. Okay. Everything in the transportation is the same, insurance is the same. Now, the difference here is that they lowered their dining out budget, which is fine, by 50 bucks. Okay. So now we're going to go down to savings and investments. Now, what you'll see here is that this number changed. In our last scenario, it was $769. The reason that this is lower now is because the goal is to hit $1,000 emergency fund, and we were able to save $769 the month before. So now this number is going to be lower. Okay, so that's one of the beauties of doing a budget. It gives you, again, mile markers, and every month is not going to be the same. You're going to have differences in your budget from month to month. Now, if you have a lower expense, then that means then you can put that money on something that's going to move the needle in your financial future, which would be, in this case, your debt. Okay, so everything in the donations is the same. There's no pets. Uh, the personal care, everything's the same here, right? This is going to be the game changer right here. So if you look here, this is the smallest credit card, right? So last month it was around 1,200 something dollars. This month it's $829 is remaining. And because we are now we paid into our emergency fund $769, and we now only owe ourselves $231. The rest of that money can then go to paying off this credit card. Let's go. All right. So once we're now done paying off this credit card, this is July. So in when August comes, we can now dump this money, this $829, and snowball it into this $289. And then we'll be done paying this credit card off sometime around August. So within a 2 month span of time, we fully funded our emergency fund. We knocked off one credit card. We're in the we're going to be knocking off another credit card, and now we're cooking, if that makes sense. So once this credit card is finished, this Navy Federal credit card is finished, now we can start knocking off this credit card. And if you look here, we have $829, we have $289. That's $1,000, over $1,000, and then we have $123. This credit card should be paid off if nothing changes with the income, and we're still out with our spending money, and nothing changes. This credit card here will be done in 3 months' time, tops, gone. And then once we're done with that, now we can knock this Chase credit card off. So within a few months' time, you'll now have $1,441 back to your bottom line. What could you do with $1,441? Think about that. That's an extra $1,441. But now that we paid off our debt, let's just say in this next scenario that all of our debts are now paid off. Now we want to go back to our emergency fund, which is $1,000. And then what we want to do is now build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And the 3 to 6 months is going to be of your expenses. So with that said, you have $1,441 back to your bottom line. You're going to subtract it from this number here because the $1,441 is no longer an expense to you. And your 3 to 6 months, or at least 1 month, is going to be $6,254. So let's just say you do a 3 month emergency fund. That's going to be $18,000. So if nothing else changes, then you're going to save $18,000 to your 3-month emergency fund. What that's going to do, once you build up your emergency fund, what that's going to do, it's going to put you at ease if something bad happens, something unexpected happen, if life starts lifing, if you if your hot water heater goes out, or you have damage to your home where you have to pay $1,000 deductible, it's not a catastrophe. It's just a minor inconvenience because you have money set aside to take care of the things that you need to take care of without having to rely on credit cards. So once your 3 to 6 month emergency fund is set up, then now you can do a lot of the things that you want to do and be carefree and save for the future and invest and things of that nature. So, this in this scenario that we're talking about here should take you about a year, year and a half tops. If nothing changes and life doesn't life and everything stays the same in these scenarios, or if you want to go hard and go faster, then what you can do is start knocking out some of these different expenses that you have. Like if you want to remove dining out, then that'll give you $450 back to your bottom line to then knock out some of these credit cards faster, right? Or you're spending money. Like it when you're going through these scenarios, right? And when you're going through your own personal scenario, your financial freedom is going to come only as fast as you work for it. So if you're of the mindset that, hey, I can cut out some things now so I can live later, then do that. And every little bit helps. So if it's hair and nails, if you can cut those out, good, do it. If you can shave these down, maybe $100, do it. If you can shave your also what I didn't mention is that since you're for the following month in August, this number is going to go down to zero because in August, your emergency fund is already taken care of. So now you can dump the $231 on one of these credit cards. That is the next smallest one, which in our scenario would be Navy Federal. So there are so many different possibilities for you if you work the plan. I'm telling you, this plan works because we've done it. We've paid off all of our credit cards. We've paid off all of our debts. We saved up for things to pay for things cash. And again, that may not be what you want to do, but I'm telling you, paying something with cash and building it into your budget every month as an expense. And so if you're saving up for a car, you can make that an expense as well to put away money for a car. That's what we did. And I'm telling you, paying for something cash feels way better than having a car note or any type of note hanging over your head. It just gives you a little bit more freedom to operate. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to set up financial freedom for ourselves, which is then going to trickle down to our kids. Because if you get good at this, then you can show your kids how to do what you may have never been taught. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I know I threw a lot of information at you. And so you may want to go over this multiple times. Or if you feel confused or you feel like you need some one-on-one time, I do have one-on-one coaching on my website as well. If you go through this, multiple times and you still feel confused, like you don't understand what I just said, but hopefully if you go back and just go through it slowly, then all you're doing is logging your projected expenses when you pay for something you mark it down as paid, and the difference is going to be zero. Now, if you have a scenario where your gas, let's just say your gas bill you projected as $75, and then it comes in at $60, then that means you have $15 to put on your debt. Again, every little bit helps. I'm telling you, if you get into that mindset, then you'll start finding money all over the place to get you to your goal faster. So hopefully everything that I said makes sense. And let's get going, man. Like we cannot wait. My wife and I, we did this thing and we've been on our journey for the last about 10 years now. And I'm telling you, it feels way better now than when we started. You're going to, face some bumps and bruises along the road, but if you keep doing the thing, then it gets easier and easier every month. And this needs to be done every month. All right, let's get to it. Let's go. All right, y'all, we made it. We made it to module number 7. This is the last and final module, number 7. And what I like to call this module is Windfall of Wisdom. And in Windfall of Wisdom, what does that mean, Che? What do you mean by Windfall of Wisdom? What that means is, what do we do if we have a windfall of money? If we get an inheritance? If we get taxes, our tax money comes in. If we get unexpected money, what do we do with the money? Here's the good news. The good news is if you do get a windfall of money, that is not the time to go blow it. It's not the time to go to the mall. The good news is once you start doing and being a good steward over your finances, my belief is, because it's happened to me, that God will start giving you different opportunities to pay your stuff down faster. This is exactly what happened to my wife and I. As soon as we got on the same page with our finances and we started doing different projects at our home and we started paying down debt and trying to be better stewards together over our finances, then we got blessed with so many different opportunities and ways to get the goal accomplished faster. And that's exactly what happened. So, as you guys get better with your finances, you will have opportunities to blow the bag. You will get money that comes in if you have a side business. In our scenarios that we talked about in module number 6, if a windfall of money happens or you get extra income from your job, you get a bonus. If you get extra income from your side business, that is not the time to blow the bag. It's not the time. Okay. So the good news is that you have a plan already set. So if your budget is already set, you have your income, you have your expenses, you have your debts, smallest to largest, already taken care of. You have your emergency fund laid out and how fast you're going to get your emergency fund done. All those things are laid out. If you get an extra windfall of money, then that should go towards your debt until it's paid off. Again, smallest to largest. The plan does not go out of the window if you get a windfall of money. Okay, please, please. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have our plan already set. So when the money comes in, then we know exactly what to do with it. Nothing changes on our end except us having the ability to reduce our expenses so we can get to start making money and investing and doing all those nice things that you see people on Instagram doing. All right. Going on vacations and different things of that nature. So we need to take care of the things that we need to take care of first. So then we can live our best lives. Here's the key: with no regrets later. because we can live our best life now, but at what expense are we living our best life? Are we running up credit cards so we can run to this island or that island or overseas in Europe somewhere? Are we living our best lives at the cost of our future? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate that. And that's exactly why you spent your hard earned money on this course, so you can actually start living your best financial life. So I believe that all of these modules that were put together, if done properly or done the right way, you will live your best financial life quick. It'll happen quickly, but you have to do it step by step by step. You cannot skip steps. I know you're going to want to. It doesn't work like that. You cannot skip steps. So if you didn't get it the first time, please go back through the modules. Go back through them and watch them, listen, and execute on them, and you will live your best life. So hopefully everything that we've gone through from module number 1 all the way down to module number 7 makes sense. And we have all of the different scenarios that could potentially happen to you already lined out and mapped out. So when something does happen, then we're not caught off guard. We're not surprised. Okay. So if you do get an extra windfall of money, again, it is not the time to go to the mall. It's not the time to take this a lavish trip. It is time to reduce your expenses, deny your instant gratification. These things will happen, and it's time to start executing on where you say that you want to go financially. And again, once you get there, it is your responsibility to show somebody, specifically your kids, so they won't stumble and bump their heads like we did. Okay? So we're trying to pass this information down. So that's it, guys. We're done. We're done here. If you need help, if you need one-on-one time, do not be afraid to book a one-on-one session if you need more clarity. Again, you spent your hard-earned money, and the little bit of money that you're spending here, it's going to pay huge dividends to you later on. Okay? So it's time to get to it. It's go time. Let's get to it, y'all, man. We have a lot of good things that are happening. And as far as like from an investing standpoint, and if you do what we had lined up in these modules, then you will be able to take advantage of the market, as well as if you want to get into real estate or you want to reinvest back into your business and scale your business. You can now do that because you know how to ball on a budget. All right. So let's get to it, y'all. Thank you so much. Let's get to it. Peace.